Jose Ortega y Gasset was a Spanish philosopher and humanist and one of the great existentialists. And this brief reading about the creative life is an indictment against the idea of mass communication technology as distraction. Right? He's very concerned that we'll be distracted away from our calling or our purpose into the trivial and the kind of amusing and the silly. So I'll just go right at the test questions. Human life, by its very nature, has to be what? Ortega y Gasset says that human life, by its very nature, has to be dedicated to something an enterprise, glorious or humble, a destiny, illustrious or trivial. We are faced with a condition strange but inexorable, right? Which means unchangeable, involved in our very existence. On the one hand, to live is something which each one does of himself and for himself. On the other hand, in that life of mine, which only concerns myself, is not directed by me towards something, it will be disjointed, lacking intention and in form. So, the answer to the question is we have to be dedicated to something. That's the idea that to be a person is to always have a kind of what's coming up next and to have a goal and to kind of resolutely throw ourselves into that goal. That's how we develop identity and life meaning, self-esteem. In these years, what are we witnessing, according to Ortega? He says, in these years, we're witnessing the gigantic spectacle of innumerable human lives wandering about lost in their own labyrinths through not having anything to which to give themselves. All imperatives, all commands are in a state of suspension. I mean, that is so interesting, particularly with, discussions regarding boredom and depression and anxiety. This idea of the kind of labyrinth, right? People are lost in the maze of their own possibilities, not really knowing what to do through the lack of having dedicated themselves to something, right? They haven't kind of, they've lost their purpose. And I think it relates very directly to kind of mass communication technologies and kind of what identity management programs and apps and that sort of stuff. It's like, you know, it's like people have lost a sense of purpose, and I think this really coheres with the rise of isms and various emotional maladies. Mere egoism is what? Ortega asserts, given over to itself, every life has been left empty with nothing to do. And as it has to be filled with something, it invents frivolities. And those are like trivialities that don't mean anything. It invents frivolities for itself, given itself to false occupations which impose nothing intimate, sincere. Today it is one thing, tomorrow another, opposite to the first. Life is lost at finding itself all alone. Mere egoism is a labyrinth, right? So that's the answer to the question there. Mere egoism is a labyrinth, or like a maze. Really, to live is to be directed towards something, to progress towards a goal. The goal is not my motion, not my life. It is something to which I put my life and in which is outside it, beyond it. If I decide to walk alone inside my own existence, egoistically, I make no progress. I arrive nowhere. I keep turning round and round in the one spot. That is the labyrinth, the road that leads nowhere, which loses itself through being a mere turning round within itself. And so, I mean, the idea of I don't know. I mean, I guess Fortnite is an amusement, just like watching TV, sports, and that kind of stuff. That's an amusement, and binging movies and Facebooking and all that stuff. But he would be critical, right? And he is very critical. He sees that as just a labyrinth or a maze, or the way he says it, which is very interesting. The road that leads nowhere. Okay, in tension with this, I don't know, life in a labyrinth because it has no goals and it's the road that leads to nowhere. And, it's this kind of what anomie or alienation that he's talking about. We have Ortega's rendition of what he calls the creative life. And in a nutshell, he says this, a creative life implies a regime of strict mental health, of high conduct, of constant stimulus. And this keeps active the consciousness of one's dignity. A creative life is energetic life. And I think that's what he really wants for us. That is where he's sort of prodding us to go, to always be vital and moving and energetic and dynamic. And it's, when he says stuff like strict mental health, high conduct, constant stimulus, he doesn't want us to be a slacker. He wants us to be kind of genteel, and work hard toward a meaningful goal, which from which we will derive self-esteem and identity.